Welcome to Back to School Night, everybody. I know that it is a lot to get on the road and be here so quickly after work for your evenings, and so I appreciate it. You may note I'm not, in fact, Matthew, standing here in front of you talking tonight, and we are doing great in the beginning of our time with Matthew not being here. Thank you all for the kind words that you shared of support for me. I'm not worried. I know that we'll continue to thrive because of the strength of the community and the strength of everybody here, which actually perhaps is a great jumping off point to the topics of my remarks tonight, which is community. I was standing in the activity fair, the clubs fair, the other Friday in the middle school over in the Rails gym, which if you've never had the pleasure of seeing such an event, it's really something to behold. A bunch of 7th and 8th graders, 5th and 6th graders running around to sign everything. Some of them are signing up for everything because that's what their parents told them to do. And some of them are doing it because they want to sign up for literally everything, and that's just what they do. And some are informed shoppers who interview everybody to decide what they want to do. Everybody plays it a little bit differently, but there's a lot of energy to it. And there are a lot of reasons we want kids to sign up. We always tell middle schoolers, try different things, and so it's a great time in your life to do it. It's developmentally appropriate. Maybe they'll find a new interest. Maybe it's something they can put on a high school application. Maybe they'll find a new thing within that activity they like. Maybe they'll find kindred spirits who enjoy publications or student government. But somewhere in there is that it's a really important opportunity for them to be in community. And I wanted to unpack what that is. So at like a really broad view, if I think about what being in community means, it's like participating around a common thing with others, right? And broadly, maybe that's like geographical. Maybe our community is our neighborhood, right? That's certainly true for us. Maybe it's a faith community, right? Maybe it's an affinity group, whatever that example happens to be. But as we begin to drill that down, we as a school community are a community, right? We all come together around a mission. We all come together with kids at the center, that they'll be known. And we support one another despite our differences as constituents and different roles. We certainly partner to ensure that each child is known, challenged, and loved. So then if we keep drilling down and we think about our students, they too are an integral part of the school community, but as the adults who are working with them, what lessons do we want them to learn from being part of their community? Well, there's a lot of things, right? There's that they should learn that community members all have different roles, but everyone works to lift up one another despite those differences. When they're student ambassadors, part of that club, there are a lot of different roles to play, and one is not more important than the other. We want students to learn that sometimes we have to compromise, right? We love and value our community, and so sometimes we have to acknowledge certain parts we don't prefer. Maybe we work towards changing those, and maybe we have some level of acceptance. Some kids sign up for the musical, and it is not perhaps their preferred musical, not perhaps their preferred role, but they understand, and their desire to be part of that community outweighs that, and they are part of the show and the community. I think that sometimes members of a community need help, and learning that sometimes we have to be part of a community. We have to have hard conversations maybe about responsibility or accountability. Sometimes other members of our community need a hug. Sometimes they need a high five. Sometimes in robotics, the robot doesn't work. And if you really want a moment of growth, you can watch a bunch of middle schoolers try to figure out why a robot doesn't work and try to hold one another appropriately and with guidance accountable to figure out why said robot doesn't work. It is part of community to understand, to give each other grace and space to try to solve a problem. These lessons don't show up on a high school application, and they don't show up on a report card, but I might argue that they are the foundations for learning the skills of being in a community. And we hope that they're the foundation for joining communities throughout their lives, not just school communities. I spend a lot of time talking to students about community in big and small ways, and I often do it through a metaphor. I talk about community as fabric, and not a fabric that you buy at the store, and here we have this fabric, isn't it lovely? But rather a fabric that we have to stitch together, and that is a metaphor. I'm an awful cross-stitcher. I took a course in textiles once, and the very, very nice teacher, after watching me struggle for a couple of days, pointed to my work and said, "You would perhaps be more successful with the loom," which I said thank you and moved over to the loom. So I will stick with the metaphor, but we talk to students about how they're putting quality stitches into the fabric of the community. Trust me, it's pretty easy to put a low quality stitch in. I know how to do that, literally and metaphorically, but we want them to learn that communities are strong when we put quality stitches together. Sometimes when students make mistakes, I'll say, hey, we ripped the fabric a little bit. But the good news is that a fabric can always be repaired. A rip can be repaired with a quality stitch. So when we make mistakes and we don't support the community, how do we address that? How do we fix the fabric? But also, every time we come together and we do something in community, large and small, we are putting stitches into that. And so I would say that tonight, we as members of this community, as teachers and as parents, as the adults in the community, we're building part of that fabric as well. Being part of events like this, like tonight, is coming together in partnership and is making time for our children and making time for each other. We are all very busy people, and simply showing up and being here and spending the evening in classrooms, talking to teachers, getting to know one another to the degree that you can in a speed dating back to school night scenario, I actually think is really, really important. So I genuinely mean this thank you, right, for being part of this community, and thank you for the investment of your time tonight to be here for your child. There are of course a lot of people who aren't here, right, and that's okay too. I think what we try to do here at Norwood is offer a lot of opportunities in big and small ways for different constituencies to come together to put quality stitches into our community. Thank you for making tonight that quality stitch. There will be other opportunities during the year, and I encourage everybody to be part of those too.